On August 28, 2024, just weeks after the fall of the regime, a new committee was sworn in. Their job wasn't to govern, it was to count the cost. Led by economist Dr. Debapriya Bhattacharya, this 12-member team was tasked with the economic equivalent of a crime scene investigation. 3 months later, on December 1st, they dropped the bomb. A report running 399 pages across 22 chapters. It didn't just find holes in the budget, it found a black hole in the economy. The central finding was staggering. Between 2009 and 2023, Bangladesh lost an estimated $234 billion to illicit financial outflows. That is an average of $16 billion a year. To put that in perspective, we lost 3 Padma bridges every single year, flown out in suitcases and swift transfers. And the looting wasn't just leaving the country. It was eating the infrastructure. The report estimates that in public procurement, roads, power plants, bridges, 40% of the funds were eaten by corruption. That is $14 to $24 billion lost to bribes, syndicates, and inflated costs. This chapter follows the money, from the vaults of Motijeel to real estate in Toronto, Singapore, and London. And it asks the terrified question: can a country bankrupt by its own leaders ever truly recover? The white paper by the Commission exposes a financial black hole so large, the local numbers don't make sense anymore. Critics call this the legacy of Chortantra, the rule of thieves. The official report identifies 6,75,000 crore taka of distressed loans. Let's translate that. In dollar terms, that is 56 billion US dollars. It is a sum larger than the foreign reserves of most South Asian nations combined. This is not just a banking crisis, it is a sovereign solvency crisis. That $56 billion hole is larger than the total foreign debt that caused Sri Lanka to go bankrupt in 2022. We are staring at a Sri Lanka-sized collapse hidden inside our own banks. To understand how a nation loses billions, you don't look at a spreadsheet, you look at a man. For a decade, the banking sector was dominated by one name: S. Alam. He came out of nowhere. Before the regime, Saiful Alam was known in Chittagong for S. Alam Paribahan, a fleet of inter-district buses. He was a transport operator, not a banker. But he understood the currency of the regime: loyalty. His rise to the throne happened in 2017. Intelligence agencies allegedly picked up the board members of Islami Bank, took them to a hotel, and forced them to resign at gunpoint. Overnight, the transport operator became the custodian of the largest deposit pot in the country. Once inside, the looting began. The white paper suggests S. Alam treated the bank vaults like a personal ATM. Using shell companies, his group siphoned out an estimated 30,000 crore taka from Islami Bank alone. The money went to Singapore, where he bought the Grand Hyatt and luxury retail empires. He was literally handed the keys to Bangladesh's money by Hasina with the full endorsement of the entire state machinery. Imagine, one day you're a bus driver or conductor or a manager at the S. Alam Group, and the next day you're rolling up to the biggest banks in the country in an executive vehicle escorted by armed guards as its newest board of governors. In local terms, the theft is even more visceral. The Padma Bridge, the nation's pride, cost about $3.6 billion. This stolen money could have built 15 Padma bridges. Instead, it built nothing but luxury villas in Toronto and 5-star hotels in Singapore. That figure is not just accounting. This theft didn't just drain the banks, it broke the taka. When $16 billion leaves the country every year, the currency crashes. By July 2024, food inflation hit a historic 14.1%. The white paper blames a specific syndicate, a cartel of politically connected oligarchs, for the cost of living crisis. This was market capture. In key commodities like onions and eggs, prices spiked by 20 to 40% within weeks, ignoring global trends, import costs, and everything in between. The Competition Commission and the Commerce Ministry, run by bureaucrats loyal to Hasina, did nothing. The white paper calls this the oligarchic tax. For a garment worker earning 12,500 taka, this artificial inflation forced protein out of their diet. The syndicate moved the profits to Begumpara. Greed, not scarcity, caused the hunger in Dhaka. And then there is the bureaucracy. By 2024, the corruption was so normalized it couldn't be hidden. The breaking point wasn't a report. It was a viral video of a goat. This is Ifat. He bought a goat for 15 lakh taka. Internet sleuths found his father, Motiur Rahman, a high-ranking tax official. On a government salary of 70,000 taka, Motiur had built an empire of resorts and theme parks. The goat pulled the thread that unraveled the entire country. But Motiur was just a symptom. Even the Prime Minister's personal staff were billionaires. Jahangir Alam, known as the peon of the PM, came from nothing. By 2024, he reportedly owned mansions in Dhaka and the US. Hasina herself joked about it in a press conference. My peon has 400 crore taka. He moves around like a king. To her, it was a joke. To the country, it was an insult. Compare the Queen's peon to this. In the same week, Ifat bought his goat. Reports surfaced of mothers in rural districts unable to pay hospital bills of 10,000 taka. This was the two Bangladeshs, one buying goats for the price of a mansion, and the other selling their dignity for the price of a meal. The interim government froze the VVIP accounts, but the damage remains. The taka is broken. The population is paying the price for 15 years of unchecked plunder. Asset recovery is a global bottleneck, not just a national one. And while that process drags on, the impact at home is immediate. Hospitals remain understaffed. Families absorb the cost, and classrooms remain overcrowded. For 15 years, the regime sold a specific brand, Unnayan, which stands for development in Bengali. But the white paper reveals the reality. Nearly 40% of that budget was lost to systemic corruption. Projects were approved for their kickbacks, not their utility. Bangladesh paid the highest prices in the world for roads, 3 times more per kilometer than India or Vietnam. Bangladesh became poorer, while Hasina and her party members moved billions out for luxury purchases abroad. With the ultimate protection coming from the very top, for 15 years, Bangladesh was a free-for-all. Salman F. Rahman was the Prime Minister's private industry advisor, and in effect, he was the vice-regent and architect in this circus of corruption. He was a businessman regulating his own competitors. Under his watch, the line between state policy and Simco profits dissolved. The white paper indicates that policies were tweaked to favor his conglomerates. While the stock market crashed for millions of small investors, Rahman's companies defied gravity. He was the architect of the syndicate model, where the regulator and the beneficiary are the same person. This impunity bred a dangerous arrogance in the cabinet. When the public cried out about inflation, the ministers didn't offer solutions. They offered insults. When eggplant prices rose, they said, "Eat pumpkin." When the grid failed, they said, "Wear lighter clothes." They became too big to fail and too loud to control. Figures like Obaidul Quadr and the Home Minister believed their power was absolute. They ignored the intelligence reports, the white papers, and the hunger in the streets. They thought the development narrative was a shield. In the end, it was a blindfold. And gravity finally caught up with them on August 5th. The fall of the mighty was swift and humiliating. Salman F. Rahman was caught trying to flee by boat in Sadargat. The man who owned the stock market was paraded in a helmet and a bulletproof vest, tied with a rope like a common criminal. Obaidul Quadr, who famously shouted "Kayla Hobe," which means the game is on, vanished into thin air, with rumors swirling of a frantic escape across the border to India. The Home Minister, Asaduzzaman Khan, whose police once killed students in the streets, was seen last in Kolkata. In the 2024 budget, debt servicing costs surpassed the combined budgets for health and education. The tiger economy was a facade, and Dr. Bhattacharya's report pulled off its thin veil. It was a risky admission of insolvency, but it also revealed the deeper mystery. Why didn't the state collapse sooner? If the syndicate was stealing $16 billion a year, how did the central bank stay afloat? The answer lies in the arrivals terminal of Dhaka Airport. While the elite siphoned capital out to the west, over 10 million migrant workers pumped hard currency in from the Middle East and Southeast Asia. They built the nation's economic foundation while being denied a voice in its governance. They paid the bills. But they weren't allowed to sit at the table. This is why the interim government has announced a historic shift. The diaspora will finally get the right to vote. This changes the power dynamic instantly. In the next chapter, we take off to the Middle East, Malaysia, and more to understand the plight of the migrant worker. Stay tuned for Chapter 8, Between Remittances and Rights.